This is the second of 4 webinars for Homeownership Month hosted by the Department of Housing and Community Development. My name is Christine Hillock, and I'm the Housing Initiatives Project Manager with the Department of Housing and Community Development. I have just a few notes about our session today before we jump into the content. First, I wanted to just let you know that cameras and microphones for participants, as well as the chat, are disabled for the meeting. The link for closed captioning was sent in advance, so if you will turn on separate closed captions, just click on that link that was emailed out, and the captions will appear in a separate browser. They'll pop up in a separate browser. Today's session is being recorded, and we do plan to, and it is being transcribed, and we do plan to post it online at a later date. Today's presenter is Seaver Miller with the Loudoun County Fire Marshal's Office. We're very happy. Seaver, if you could just kind of wave hello to the audience. Hi.
Hey.
We also are joined today by my colleague Melinda Niebel. And Melinda, if you could come on camera for just a moment. And Melinda is our Fair Housing Coordinator. This is a new position that was added this year, and we're very happy to have Melinda on the team and in this role as a resource for the community. So she'll be hanging out and helping with webinar management today too. We will have some time for questions at the end of the session. If you have any additional questions, please don't hesitate the questions that we received in advance today. But if you do have additional questions, Seaver will be providing his contact information at the end of the presentation. The questions today obviously will be on our content, which is fire safety in your home. But if you do have questions about anything related to housing programs or housing initiatives, we also encourage you to reach out to us directly at the Department of Housing and Community Development. Our general email is housing@loudoun.gov. You can call us at our front desk, which is 703-737-8323. Or you can visit our website, which is loudoun.gov/housing. And with that, I would like to turn it over to Seaver Miller to get started with today's content.
Great. Thank you, Christine. I do appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time today to learn a little bit about fire safety. My name is Seaver Miller. I work for Loudoun County Fire and Rescue. A little bit of backstory about me. I've been with Loudoun County for Fire and Rescue for over 20 years. I've been a firefighter for over 20 years as well. I did most of my career in operations, which is fighting fire, running in emergency situations. So I have 20 years of active firefighting. I also have 10 years of public education, just teaching people and teaching others how to be safe to prevent fires as well. I've been working for the Fire Marshal's Office for about 3.5 years. And part of our job is to help people create and maintain safe environments inside their home, because we want to prevent those emergencies. We do so with providing people the resources and the tools that they need to just make some safeguards when it comes to their home fire and safety. Today we're going to go over just a couple items. So whenever we do a presentation, especially for somebody, and we tell people about fire education as adults, is you might see some things in here that you may never know or never knew. You might hear something, okay, I already knew that. And then you also might see some things that, well, I've been doing that for a long time as nothing has ever happened. So our thing is, just because we've been doing certain things a certain way for so long doesn't mean that they're most safest way. My job and my mission is to just provide you the safest way, and to also work around, real life scenarios and everything to minimize, if not dismiss or nullify the chances of fire happening or an emergency happening. So again, my name is Seaver Miller. I am a firefighter and public education assistant. Lisa Braun is our public education manager, who oversees the public education division within Loudoun County Fire and Rescue. She's assigned to the Fire Marshal's Office right now. So you can also reach out to her and myself as well, and we'll provide you those information at the end. Okay, so when it comes to, there's two things that save more lives in events of a fire. It's early detection. The first one's early detection. Those are working smoke alarms. When it comes to working smoke alarms, we want to make sure that they're located on every level, outside of sleeping areas and inside each bedroom. Depending on the age of your home, certain things have changed about the way that they were built and the way the smoke alarms were added into your home. Ever since the beginning of the early 2000s, Loudoun County development adopted a code that every new residence had to have interconnecting working smoke alarms on every level and inside every bedroom. So our recommendation is for that alone, is to have it on at least a smoke alarm on every level, out inside every room, and inside every sleeping area, including bedrooms. And interconnected means that if one detects smoke, they all activate. So if the one in the basement here detects smoke, you're alerted upstairs. And what that allows you to do is to know that, smoke travels faster than fire, and that's to alert you that there may be fire inside your home. There's certain ways that they did that when they build new homes, they use a smoke alarm and they tie it into your electrical house power. And so what that does, and then they also have a battery backup. So we also want to, when they are installed, we want to make sure that we test them monthly. And then we also want to check the battery each year. So I mentioned that they're on house power. So basically I have a smoke alarm here. It's on house power and they have a battery backup in case the power goes out. So we want to test them every month. And each smoke alarm, although they may look a little different, they're all pretty much similar. They have a test button. And what we do is that we press this down and we wait until it activates. Now, testing it does two things. First off, it'll let you know that it works. The second thing is that it lets you know what it sounds like when it's an active alarm. We recommend testing it once a month. You can do it either from a ladder by pressing with your finger or on the ground with a broom handle, whatever's the easiest for you. We want to check every single one of them. The ones that are interconnected, you'll hear them all activate once you hit that. But we also want to make sure that all the other ones work appropriately. So we want to do that. Sometimes they make different noises, though. They make a different noise where they maybe make like a beep, beep. You might hear them like really early in the morning. And what that means is that there's something wrong with the battery, or there's something wrong with the smoke alarm, which usually means it just needs a new battery. Over time, when the smoke alarm is up, it checks its battery. It's a safeguard. So it takes off a house power for a second, checks the battery, and then it goes back to house power saying, okay, I got enough battery. However, it drains the batteries when it does that. We recommend either changing out the batteries when needed, when you hear the chirping, or twice a year. Or you can also upgrade to a longer lasting battery that may last 5 or 10 years. They do have a shelf life of 10 years. You can tell how old they are, but if you look on the back of it, you take it down from the ceiling, you take it down from the bracket, there's a data manufacturing. This one's right here. It might be hard to see, but if you look at it, it tells you what the data manufacturing is. Our recommendation is that to replace them after 10 years. It's not that they stop working after 10 years, they stop responding properly, and it's time to replace them. So if you replace it from there. When you do replace these, we want to make sure that we purchase new smoke alarms that are dual sensored, either ionization or photoelectric. Most of them are both. The ionization of photoelectric just means the way they detect smoke. The ionization is more of there's positive and negative neutrons in there with a little bit of radioactiveness. And what happens is the smoke disrupts that and sets off the alarm. Photoelectric is a light beam that is on a reflector. When the smoke particles get in the middle of it, that's what detects it. Either one is fine, but we want to make sure that they're tested by a recognized laboratory, either UL, FM, ELL, etc. Consider alarm when you do purchase a new alarm. Consider one with the active with the 10-year battery. So if it's time to use. When it's time to replace the battery, it's time to get a new smoke alarm. You never have to worry about the little chirping in the middle of the night to change the batteries. Visual smoke alarms are available for those who are deaf or hard of hearing. Loudoun County has a program. Our mission for our program is to help people, just make sure that people have working smoke alarms in their home. And we do that by assisting them in any step of the way. If they're unsure, they want to have and we give free assessments. I'll leave you the information. There's also the information down here, which is loudouncounty.gov/smoke alarm program, or you can call up the number at 703-737-8093. And what we can do is we can take an assessment, depending on what the needs are, and we can have firefighters come out. They can change the battery. They can help you test them. If they need help, if you need help taking them down, and we can help you on installing them and also installing new ones. However, we can't do any hard wiring if they need to be hardwired back into your house power. Most smoke alarms have an adapter. So when you're purchasing them, our recommendation is to take the one that you currently have. So the adapter gets plugged one side of the adapter gets plugged into the smoke alarm. The other side of the adapter is hardwired into your ceiling, into the hardwired. Firefighters aren't certified electricians. We don't practice it so if that's the case, our recommendation is to hire a certified electrician to make sure that the work is done. Second thing that saves more lives in events of a fire is having a home escape plan. If we think about having a fire drill that we used to have at school, we had an escape plan. Usually whenever the alarm goes off at the school, we stand up. We used to go out, or we do go out to the door. We go out the hallway, we go outside, and then we go to our meeting spot. And we drill that, and they do it in school every month to make sure that children and the staff there knows exactly what to do in case there's ever a fire. Well, kids spend a lot of time at school. We also spend a lot more time at home. So if you don't have a home escape plan, it's okay. We can develop one, and I can show you how. So whenever we come for your home escape plan, we want to get together with everybody you live with. This is anybody who lives with you or anybody who's visiting you. In case they know if there's ever a fire and we need to get out, everybody knows exactly what to do. First thing is we want to have 2 ways out of every room. We'll talk about a little bit about residents inside our homes inside a single family, or one inside an apartment building or a condo. It's the same thing. We want to have 2 ways out of every room. Those 2 ways out could be a door and a door. It can be a door and a window. And we want to recognize them. So if this case right here, this isn't a home, your first option is the one that you go out of the most, usually your door. That's your primary exit to go through. And then if for some reason you can't go out that door, that's where you have the backup. There's a rule and a code that's out there that every room has to have 2 ways out. It's because of this because of fire emergencies. That second option might be a bedroom, or it might be a window in a bedroom. It may be on the first floor, it may be on the second floor. This is your time to recognize those, and especially recognize those with the people inside your home. Make sure that the doors open and they close appropriately, and also the window in case there is an emergency. And then when it comes to apartment buildings and condos, have the way out of each unit. It can be the main door, and maybe also a window, or maybe a deck. That might be your second option. Make sure all the windows and doors open easily. Keep all walkways clear of clutter. We want to make sure that we have enough room. We don't want to be tripping over things or trying to get over things when it's time to leave. And just try to keep up a good, tidy household as much as you can within possible. Paths of egress are the way that any way leading to an exit. We want to keep those kind of clear as much as we can, especially the steps. The biggest thing is plan your escape around your abilities. So whether you have children that you live with, recognize their ages on what their abilities they are. Maybe they might be too young to self-rescue. Maybe you may go in there, and it's just to have a plan. Unfortunately, nothing's black and white when it comes to your emergency escape plan. A lot of it's situational based. That's why we also say have a plan. Just have some sort of plan to have it. When it comes to exiting your home, we want to make sure not only we have 2 ways out of every room, but we want to make sure we have 2 ways out of the house. So the main door is going through the front door, and then also if you can't go out the front door, it's going to somewhere is going to a different door, maybe the back door. When you're in a residence that is either an apartment building or you're in a residence that is a condo, that is getting out of your unit and going out of the building. You may be on the first floor, you may be on the second floor, you may be on the third floor. Depending on where it is, the elevators, if there's elevators, those are not going to be usable. The main on either end of your home are usually the exits out to get out of the building, or just find a place of refuge. Sometimes it might be better for you to stay inside your residence, and because you can't go out that way. So, and then I mean going to another deck. When it comes to if you find that you're unable to get out of a fire and you need assistance, our mission is to make as much noise as you possibly can. As far as firefighting operations, whenever the departments or the fire engines come to your house, our main goal is life safety. First, human life, pet life, all life. Is what we do is we look for life. If anybody needs assistance getting out, all resources go there to assist that person or assist. And then during that time, then we put the fire out. And while we're putting the fire out, we also try to protect your assets as well. Have a meeting place outside. So once you're outside, have a meeting spot where everybody goes. And that's the only place that you go. It can be anything that your family and the people that are visiting you decide. It can be a mailbox, it can be a tree, it can be a neighbor's house, but as long as everybody knows exactly where to go. And once you're outside, stay outside. Please, please, I can't iterate this enough. Please stay outside. If anybody or anything, pets need assistance getting out, it's our jobs as firefighters. We have the gear, we have the equipment, we have the tools to protect ourselves in case that is. And wait to dial 911 in an event of a fire until outside. Your main goal is in an event of a fire is to get out of your home. When we're also talking about carbon monoxide is an odorless gas. It's developed by incombustible burning, and what it is that carbon monoxide, you can't smell it, you can't taste it. The only way you know that it's there is if you have a detection or if you feel the effects of it. People might feel the effects of lightheadedness, blue lips. All these may lead to a carbon monoxide poisoning. So when you want to purchase, our recommendation is if you have fuel burning appliances in your home or an attached garage, we recommend having a carbon monoxide detector. We want them installed on the central locations outside each sleeping area, as well as every level. We want to place them near whatever the fuel burning appliance is. Whether if it's a stove, place one outside the kitchen. They do have dual sensing carbon monoxide smoke alarms. However, we've seen over the last years is that people get mistake if it's the smoke alarm going off or if it's the carbon monoxide going off. My recommendation is they have the carbon monoxide detectors that plug directly into an outlet. Carbon monoxide is usually around air level, so it doesn't really rise up high. It doesn't really sink down low. It's about the same level as air. So if you plug that one in, so if the carbon monoxide detector goes off, it's right there on the wall, and the smoke alarm detector goes off. So we recommend having one that goes in there. We want to test these monthly, just the same as we want to test our smoke alarms, because we want to make sure that they're working properly before there's that emergency. Replace the battery once a year, or upgrade to a lithium battery or a 10-year or 5-year battery. And we also want to clean or remove. We want to clean any buildup or dust, or sometimes dirt and dust get up there and may hamper the way that it's responding. So whenever you're vacuuming the house or dusting, if you can just take the little hose, is what I usually do, and press it and just make sure that all the dust is out. They do have a manufacturing date. Carbon monoxide's the same. If you take them out of the outlet, it has a date of manufacturer. We recommend replacing about 5 to 7 years. They don't last as long, They still work, but again, they don't respond as well. So as we move a little bit forward, we're going to provide you some tips and resources on how to keep a safeguards to keep your home to prevent emergencies. So just a little bit of background about fire science. We use fire as a tool. We need fire. We use fire to help us heat. For heat, we use fire for light. We use fire to help us cook, and we also use fire for celebration. Some people like celebration. What do you mean? Well, think about a birthday cake. It's your birthday. We put candles on your cake. You make a wish. You blow out your candles. Your wish always comes true. That's how we use fire for celebration, and also in the 4th of July when we send up fireworks. But it's a tool, and we want to make sure that we use tools properly. When we don't use tools properly, that's how accidents can happen, and that's how lives can be lost. So as far as fire science, you need 4 things for fire to start. You need oxygen, heat, fuel, and a chemical chain reaction. Now, most people know those first 3, but a lot of people are like, well, what do you mean by a chemical chain reaction? Well, since I like to just talk a little bit about science, always bring it is. So I have a piece of paper here. So I have fuel. I have oxygen all around me, and now I'm going to create heat by friction. I'm going to create heat as much as I can, and now I touch this. Well, why isn't it starting on fire? Well, that's that chemical chain reaction. It has to break it down. This piece of paper, this piece of fuel has to get as hot enough, and I got to develop enough heat. There has to be enough oxygen. It can't be too much. It can't be too little for fire to happen. When we're talking about taking fire out, or when we're talking about putting it out, we just have to displace one of those 4 things. We use water to cool down fire. We use dry chem extinguishers to disrupt the chemical chain reaction, and also to smother it to take the oxygen away too. So here are some fire safety tips when we're around your home. First off, we want to start with cooking safety. We see that a lot of fires as a result of cooking and people not using it properly, or just, so we're going to go over just a couple things. Again, some of these things you may know, and you may be practicing, like, I've been doing this for 20 years. I've been doing this for 30 years. Nothing's ever happened. Again, maybe it might happen. Maybe nothing will ever happen for another 20 years, or maybe it might happen one time. Or it's been like that for 30 years. Maybe it might be like that for 30 more seconds. We just want to make sure that we reduce those chances of something happening, or if not, nullifying them. So while you're cooking, best action is to stay in the kitchen while you're cooking, or set a timer on the food. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that we put things on the kitchen, on the stove, and that may be there for hours cooking. We understand that. When I was a younger kid, my grandmother I used to help my grandmother cook all the time. She'd be like, Seaver, stir the gravy. Seaver, stir the gravy. And if anybody grew up in a Sicilian home, you pretty much know that gravy is the pasta sauce. But she used to put it on there for hours and hours, and we just go and stir. Now, was that the safest way? No, probably not. But again, we wanted to make sure we had good gravy. So what we used to do, though, is if you can't remember, set a timer. Try to know that, okay, I have something on the stove, and I can't just leave it there for too long. When we are cooking, we want to turn the pot handles away from the stove's edge. Basically, when we're not using it, we want to move it, because we can hit it, somebody else can hit it, a pet can come over and knock it over. We want to make sure that we don't knock anything over. Now, when you're cooking and you're sauteing and you got it going, great. But as soon as you're done, just put it over to the side like this one is here. That's the safest action. We also want to keep the cooking area clean of debris and the items that might catch fire. Not only when the stove is operational, but also try to get in the habit of not putting anything on there at any time. So whenever, I know there's limited spaces in a lot of our kitchens where we might say, okay, I got the groceries, I don't have a lot of counter space, hey, let me just put them on the stove. Well, sometimes we can activate those burners. I've done it plenty of times in my life. Thankfully, it's just, I smell a little bit of gas. It's like, oh shoot, I actually did. But from putting things on there just in case. When we are cooking, we want to protect our hands. We want to protect them. We want to use oven mitts to handle hotware. And this is also in the microwave as well. Things cook differently in the microwave. They may get hotter. They may get different. We just want to make sure we protect our hands. We also want to make sure we roll up our sleeves, just in case we don't want to get it in our food. We also want to don't have our clothes catch fire either. When it comes to having a grease fire or a cooking fire, we all recommend when you are cooking with an open flame is to work with the lid wherever you're working on. The best course of action, the fastest course of action, is to shut off the heat and if you can, put the lid. It does two things. It removes the heat, and it also smothers it to take the oxygen away, and then leave it there. Depending on how big it is, that's when you want to think about maybe calling 911 so firefighters can come out to just also take a look at it as well. If you do have a grease fire, we definitely don't want to recommend throwing water on there. Water will actually spread the grease. What happens is that the grease is so hot and the water is so cold that it evaporates before it even gets there, and it makes a splash, and all that evaporation brings up the grease, and that's where it starts to spread. So this best course of action. If you do have an extinguisher, we want to make sure that we have them. You might have one inside your home for like the quick alert ones. If you do decide to use an extinguisher, always remember to never put yourself in between a fire and an exit. We always want to make sure that we have our backs so we can always exit. If you feel comfortable fighting that fire, we want to do that, but we also want to make sure that we don't want to block that exit for us. Also keep in mind that most of the fire extinguishers are dry chem. They have a chemical powder, and they also displace oxygen, and it may change the environment of your home. So keep that in mind. If you do have an oven fire, it happens a lot, especially a lot of the fires that we see in oven is for the self-cleaning. The first thing is don't open the oven. Keep it contained in there because it's contained. Turn off the heat if you can. Turn off the heat and just leave it there. Wait for it to cool down and then open it up. If it keeps burning and burning, call 911. And we also can, because a lot of times it can get so hot that the back of the wall behind it may get hot enough to may light something. We have thermal imagers on the truck that we can check heat if that's the case. Electrical safety. Worldwide, we've seen a rash of electrical fires as a result of electricity of all different kinds. A lot of them has to do with chargeable batteries, and we'll go over that in a little bit. As a firefighter, 95% of the fires that I've been on that were electrical in nature could have been prevented with just a little bit of education or with just a little bit of mindfulness. Now, the other 5% are like lightning strikes. We could prevent that, but I'll go ahead. Those are unpreventable in a lot of cases. So when we're using electricity, we want to make sure that we use it. If you are using an extension cord, we want to make sure that they're not damaged or fraying. If you ever find that yourself or see somebody putting electrical tape on an extension cord, it's time to replace it. We don't want to have exposed wires on anything. And also think about extension cords as part-time use. What that means is if I have a tool that requires electricity and I can't reach it from the outlet, what I use is an extension cord to use that tool. Say I have a drill. I use the drill. As soon as I'm done with the drill, I want to unplug it only the extension cords for that. We don't want to use extension cords as permanent wiring because it's not always the safest way. If you do use something, sometimes you may have a bunch of appliances and only have one outlet and they all real close together. Our recommendation is to use a surge protector. This is what a surge protector is. Now, hopefully I can get this where everybody can see it. A surge protector allows you to plug in multiple appliances to one strip. However, it does have a surge protector, and what this means is that if this gets overloaded, it stops it right there. It protects it from going back into the electrical system, and then once a surge goes to an electrical system, it can go all the way to the box. What this does, it stops it. Now, however, these also have safeguards against them as well. This end goes directly into the outlet. If you ever find everything gets plugged directly into an outlet, only thing that gets plugged in from the surge protector is the surge protector into the outlet. However, you might see people who might have two of them, like this one right here, and then you might see a surge protector plugged into a surge protector. What happens is they're not designed to do that. It can create so much heat, one of them will surge while the other one keeps giving off heat, and then what will happen is it can create heat, it can create fire. So when using surge protectors, every appliance gets plugged into the surge protector, and the only thing that gets plugged into the outlet is the surge protector itself. Best course of action is when we are using electricity is to always unplug it afterwards. My recommendation is if you don't need something to have electricity or current running through it, the best course of action is to unplug it. So when you're done with the toaster, unplug it. However, there are things that we have that need to be plugged in all the time. Refrigerators, and they're on their own GFI system. That means that it's on its own breaker, or our alarm clocks. So there are things out there. It's not always black and white. All right. So lithium batteries. Again, we've seen a slew of fires, not only worldwide, but also here in Loudoun County. Over the last 5 years, we've had a couple dozen fires as a result of lithium battery and chargers. Here's some safeguards against that. Only charge your batteries when you are awake and present. And that means that only charge the batteries when it's needed. As soon as they're done charging, take them off of the charger and unplug them. That's the safest way. I remember when I first was mentioning this to people in my family, like, Seaver, I've had my tools in my garage for 20 years and they've all been plugged in. Nothing's ever happened. Right. Again, it could be like that for 20 years. There was an incident in Loudoun County that it was like that for 13 years in one day. It decided to malfunction, caused over $100,000 worth of damage. Again, we want to minimize, if not nullify, those chances. Also, when it comes to charging, we also only want to use the chargers that come with the device. So if we think about an Apple, just for example, an Apple phone has an Apple charger. We want to make sure that we only use the ones that are compatible. That means that they were tested together. Not only have tested together that it powers your battery or powers your phone, but they're also tested together for those safeguards about not creating too much heat. Now I can go online and I can buy probably maybe 50 aftermarket chargers for the price of one Apple. And that might be the case, but a lot of those times they're not even tested with anything other than does this charger power this device? Sounds good, let's go with it. But they're not tested to create heat, and that's what happens. That's what we've been seeing a lot of, is the aftermarket chargers. So please, if you can, I understand what costs the budget and everything, but when you are charging your iPhones, I know that it's a lot easier just to charge it at night, and a lot of people put it under their beds or under their pillows. We definitely don't want to charge anything that is combustible. If that's your last thing and you have to charge it at night when you sleep, we understand. It's better that you're awake. So if you do charge it and decide to charge it at night, just put it on something that's not combustible, either the nightstand. Do not keep the device charging after it's charged. Once it's fully charged, just take it off. Again, we don't want to put current through anything that doesn't need it. Keep batteries at room temperature when possible. This is the biggest thing. We don't want to create more heat because electricity and charging these create enough heat as it is. And then store the batteries anywhere. Try to store the batteries away from anything they may catch fire. Also, when purchasing and using the listed device, that they're tested by laboratories together. Usually, when you buy a charger or battery charger, it comes with the charger that it's tested with. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions. Please, that is designated for the device. If you find that yourself like, oh, I can fit this battery into this thing, but again, that wasn't designed for that. It can create heat. It's not tested that way. And then also, again, try to only use the charger cord that comes with the device. Heating. When it comes to heating your home, different methods on how to heat it. Furnaces, chimneys, wood stoves, etc. They should be inspected annually and cleaned annually. Now, depending on how much you use it. If you use your chimney every year and you have fires throughout every year, our recommendation is to have somebody come and inspect it. Just make sure that everything's working properly and cleaned annually. It builds up a lot of soot. And that's also with your wood stoves as well. Fireplaces, if you do have a fireplace inside your home, we want to make sure that we have a mesh screen in front of it. There are a lot of embers that may pop. Those embers that may come out. Those embers are hot and they can catch things on fire very quickly. When it comes to space heaters, it's great to use space heaters. Please, we need them especially when it gets colder. We also want to make sure that we use them properly, though. We want to turn off the space heaters when we're not using them or when we leave the home. Space heaters, we want to make sure that they're recognized by a factory. You can buy them online or from overseas, but they're not really tested the same way that for the safe regards. We want to keep at least 3 feet around of combustibles around any space heaters or electrical heaters. And then we also want to when we go to sleep at night, we want to make sure that we shut them off. And away from other heat sources, as far as we want to also protect our children, and we also want to protect the animals who don't really understand heat detectors. That's another thing that we want to keep out for as well. And again, sometimes it's it's cold in my house at night. Our recommendation is to turn on these space heaters or an electrical blanket and heat up your bed before you get in it. As soon as you get in it, turn everything off, and then hopefully your body heat will generate enough heat throughout the night to keep you warm. Candle safety. A lot of people have candles. I like to use candles. I like the smell of candles. A lot of people use candles for religious beliefs. The best form of action, if you possibly can, is to use flameless candles, the electrical ones, if you just like the ambiance of a candle. If you do decide to have a candle and you do decide to use that, just please place the candle on a sturdy container in a place or service that is sturdy so it doesn't accidentally get tipped over. Keep any flammables away. If you have them near the lights, the curtains and everything. Also, try to keep children and pets away. A lot of times, depending on the age of the child or pets, they just don't understand how it is and where the fire and what it can happen. So we just want to either teach our children how to use the fire that it's using as a tool. And again, candles should be extinguished when leaving the room or going to bed. Smoking. If you do smoke, that's definitely everybody's decision to smoke. Our recommendation is to try to quit smoking as much as you can. Anything other than air going into your lungs is probably not good for you, especially smoke. But if you do decide to smoke or somebody in your home decides to smoke, safest place is just go outside and smoke outside. But when you extinguish those cigarettes, either it's in your home or anywhere else, we want to make sure that they're out properly. Use a sturdy ashtray. Make sure that the embers are burning, that are out totally. And once they're out, we want to soak them. Soak the cigarette with the remains of the cigarette in water. Never smoke when you're lying in bed. If you do decide to smoke inside your home, try not to ever smoke in bed or when you're drowsy or when you're taking new medication or under the influence of alcohol or any other drug. Try to never smoke in front of an oxygen source. It can just enhance a fire happen. When it comes to storing lighters and matches, keep them in a cabinet if you have children or people who don't know how to use them properly until they know how to use them. If you don't have children, just trying to keep them away from from where you kind of know where they're at. If your clothes do catch fire, we want to stop what you're doing. We want to remember to stop, drop, and roll. However, we also want to protect our face. It does two things. It protects our face from getting burns, and also protects us from inhaling any smoke. You roll, stop, drop, and roll. Fall to the ground, roll back and forth. If somebody does clothes catch on fire in front of you, you can always take a towel, take a blanket, whatever you can to assist that. Cool any burns with cold running water for at least 15 minutes. We want to cool that burning. And if it's serious, seek medical attention. Either call 911 and we can come and help you, or go to your doctor, whatever you feel is necessary. So when it comes to dialing 911, I also want to when it comes to 911 and dialing 911, it's for emergencies only. Now, our recommendation is, if you ever feel that you need to dial 911, dial it. If it's truly your emergency, try not to worry about like what other people. If you feel that you need a fire truck, an ambulance, or a police officer, dial 911. It's okay. If anything, what's going to happen when you dial 911 for any emergency, an operator or call taker is going to pick up. They're going to ask you a couple questions. First thing is, 911, what is your emergency? They want to know what your emergency is because they want to know what type of resources you need. Whether you need a fire truck, an ambulance, or a combination of both of them, or a police officer. Then they're going to want to know what the address is, because they want to know where to send the units. If you don't know what your address is and you call them from a cell phone, there are ways. If you don't know where you're at, try to give landmarks. Whether, hey, I'm in Percival and I'm at the 7-Eleven or here. That just gives them a location. Once the call taker gets those pieces of information, what type of emergency it is, and then also what's the address or what's the location, they're already sending notes to have somebody dispatch help. So they're already on the radio. So while they're doing that, they'll reassure you, hey, help is on the way, but I want to ask you some more information. They're going to ask you probably your name because they want to know who they're speaking with, and they're going to want to ask for a callback number in case you get connected. And then depending on what the emergency is, they're going to give you some instructions. It may be, turn the light on. It may whatever they needed. Just kind of listen up into what those instructions are. Now, sometimes we dial 911 by mistake. I have a cell phone, and I can't tell you how many times I've dialed 911 by mistake. You hit a button a number of times, next thing you know, it's dialing 911. If that's the case, it's okay. If you dial 911 by mistake, or anybody else does, just stay on the line. Just let them know, oh, I'm sorry, I dialed 911 by mistake. There's no emergency. We just don't want to just hang up, because then the call taker is going to think that there's an emergency. They're going to keep calling you back and back. Sometimes they may send resources, and that might take away from other people who need those resources. I know I went over a lot of things here today. I know that there are a few questions that Christine's going to ask me, and I'll go over theirs as well. But here's our contact information. This is the contact information for Lisa Braun, our public education manager. And then her number's right here. The life safety at loudoun.gov. If you have any questions at all about fire and life safety, you can also give us an email, and we can answer that as well. You can contact me directly. This is my telephone number. Call me. If you have any questions, you have any comments, just anything that I can do to help you, that's what we're here for. My email address is right there in case you want anything as far as digital content. The Loudoun County Fire and Rescue Emergency Management or Fire Marshal's Office, that's our main number. And you can always get more information on loudoun.gov /fire. There's also things that send you over to the Fire Marshal's Office as well. And I'm also going to share this screen with you real quick. This is also the number to the Loudoun County Fire Marshal's Office, which is 703-737-8600. Any forms of those, and we can provide those information to you as well via email if necessary. Thank you so much for allowing me to come and speak to you all. And Christina, I can answer any questions that you have.
Great. Thank you so much, Seaver. Can you actually leave the last slide up with your contact information just so that people can jot that down while we're talking? Thank you again. You've provided really great information today, and you've answered many fire. You talked a little bit about what happens if there is like an oven fire. What is guidance around handling an electrical fire, for example, like if a toaster or a coffee pot or a small appliance like that were to catch on fire?
So a lot of it, understood. A lot of it is situational based. I mean, it depends how big it is, how hot it is. The best course of action is to, if you can, get the power, take the power away from it. Whether it's unplugging it, whether it's whatever you need to unplug it so the current's not going through there. If it's overheating and it's smoking, it allows you not, it's a little bit safer for you to unplug it like a toaster. If it gets too big, try to use an extinguisher if you do have one. But if it's an electrical, first we want to take away the electricity, and then the next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that it's not going to be fire, it's not going to catch fire, or it's not going to remain it's not going to remain on fire. And depending on what the situation is, it may be like, wow, this is too big for me. That's our case, is just exit your home, allow us as firefighters to come and extinguish those fires.
Great.
Does that answer your question enough, Christine?
It does, yeah. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much. Here's another question.
Yes.
Do you have any guidance on how and where to store flammable household materials, such as cleaning supplies, paint, gasoline for lawnmowers, etc.?
Okay, we definitely understand. Anything that's gasoline, oil, we want to make sure that we store them if you can. And the best thing is to get a fireproof or fire resistant cabinet. They are pretty pricey. I'm not gonna lie. Most people will. That's the safest. Now, and then also work within your budget. We want to make sure that when we do store gasoline and oils, we want to keep them outside of the home. If you can keep them in a shed, if you do. If not, if you have to keep them in the garage, then we recommend just making sure that on those hot days, a lot of times they can spontaneously catch fire. If you have oily rags, or if you have we want to make sure that we dispose of all the oily rags. We don't want to keep it all in one space. When it comes to cleaning supplies, we want to also keep them in like bleach goes with bleach, ammonia goes with ammonia. If you mix those two, you can have a toxic gas. And then keep them, if you do have children, keep them locked. I usually have them like underneath my kitchen sink. When my son was younger, we locked those so children and pets don't get in there. Keep them in a place where you know where they're at. Try not to mix different chemicals together, or even store them close together, just to prevent them from mixing.
Great, thank you. And then the last question, it's fire pit season.
Yep.
Lots of folks are outside using their fire pits. Do you have any advice around use of outdoor fire pits, and also storage of firewood, either for indoor fireplaces or for outdoor fire pits?
Yeah. If you're storing wood outside, we want to keep it away from the building. Keep it away from the home, at least 3 or 4 feet. What that allows, if that wood catches on fire, it doesn't catch the side of your house on fire. It gives you a little bit of time. So if you can store it just a little bit away. When using fire pits, a lot of them they're great. They're great to use. But we also want to use them properly. We don't want them anywhere near a structure, and to keep them out in the open. We don't want anything above them as well. Heat rises. So if you're using it, if you say, oh, it's a really nice night, and we want to have a tent up, that's not the best course of action, because that can also catch fire. Keep it clear. As long as it's out in the open, I'd say at least 20 feet from any structure. But just make sure it's out every night. It's out as soon as you're done, whether it burns out or whether you put water on it or not. Those are the safest things. And then also storing wood inside your home. If you have a fireplace, we don't want to store too much wood in the home. We know we want to keep it at room temperature because it's a lot easier to light, but we don't want to keep an abundance amount in there if we can, if possible.
Great. Makes sense. Such great information today. With that, I think that we are kind of about to wrap up. Before we do that, I did want to just say again, Happy Homeownership Month to everyone. If you are interested, we do have 2 more webinars this month. We have tomorrow, we have an overview of our home improvement and home repair programs. So that's tomorrow, June 22nd, also at 12 noon. And then next Tuesday, June 27th, we will be joined by staff from Virginia Housing, which is the state office, to provide an overview of the Virginia Mortgage Relief Program. So those 2 webinars are still, and you can still register for those on the county housing website, which is loudoun.gov/housing. As I said earlier, obviously any fire-related questions should go to Seaver, but any housing-related questions can always come to us here at the Department of Housing and Community Development. Our main email address is housing@loudoun.gov, and our main website, much like the same setup for Fire Marshal's office, ours is loudoun.gov/housing, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have about any of our programs. So thank you again for joining us today. We have a few minutes left. We'll give you 5 minutes back of your time. Thanks again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much, Seaver. Take
You're
care,
welcome.
everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.